Hi everybody, Patricia Coughlin here. I'm going to follow up on the last video and also respond to a question that came up from that video. And that has to do with what Davanloo meant by fishing for feelings and why that's not a good idea. So, ISTDP is a very complex method, and it demands a lot of the therapist to understand and keep a lot of data in mind at once. And so I think there's a temptation to try to make it simple. And a lot of people seem to think that ISTDP is just about getting to feelings, that that's the primary task, and that there's something about experiencing feelings that have been avoiding that is curative. And while that's true to some extent, it's very far from the whole story. So when people are fishing for feeling, what that means is that as the patient is talking about their difficulties, they'll just keep asking, what kind of feeling do you have? What kind of feeling do you have toward that person, or what kind of feeling do you have toward me? And when the patient says, and I see this all the time in supervision, they'll go like, what's your deal? I mean, why are you so preoccupied with feelings? So what does this let us know? This lets us know that the therapist has not done the preparatory work. We don't go for feelings for the heck of it. So we are going to evaluate, again, what is the nature, the history, and the severity of the presenting problems. And as we begin to explore that and get very specific recent examples, we are going to evaluate whether there are feelings that evoke anxiety and that are avoided in ways that create or perpetuate the patient's problems. So we don't assume this, we have to assess it. And as we begin to look at, for example, somebody who has chronic headaches and they've been to the neurologist and they can't find an organic cause, we don't just assume there's emotional basis for this, we're going to assess it. So we're going to go to a recent example where the headache was triggered, and we're going to ask what was going on at that time and identify, was there a conflict going on? And then ask, again, what kinds of feelings do you have toward that person? And we're going to see, do they become anxious? Do they suddenly say, oh, my head is hurting, right? You need to have data to confirm, the hypothesis that there's an emotional basis here. And as we do that, if the patient becomes very anxious or if they begin to defend in ways, it's really my fault, I was stupid, like, do we see that the person is turning anger back on the self? And so you have work to do here to point out to the person and to see if they can see that they have feelings that are triggering anxiety and that they're avoiding both the anxiety and the feelings by defending in a way that hurts them, that causes and perpetuates their problems. This is essential work. So it's only if the patient sees that, and since they want to be free, right, of their symptoms and difficulties, they now see avoiding feelings is causing and perpetuating that. So then the task would be to face and experience those feelings directly. You have to do that work first so that you and the patient are on the same page. They understand why looking at feelings is important. If you haven't done that and you're just poking around for feelings, you'll very often get confusion or even a misalliance. Basically, what Davanloo was saying is that, and we know this, it's been confirmed by neuroscience, is that our brains are wired for emotion and emotional connection with others. Without access to the energy and the information that these feelings provide, it's very difficult for people to navigate. They can't make decisions, either at all or decisions that are in their own best interest, and they have difficulty attaching emotionally to others in a healthy way. And so we want, again, for this to be clear to the patient that avoidance of these feelings is a central problem, and that facing them and experiencing them is going to be therapeutic. Okay? And so, again, since these feelings are built in, they have been selected for in evolution, we don't really have to work so much on trying to stir up feeling. What we have to do is help the person relinquish the defenses they have against them. And so that's really the other thing that Davanloo was talking about, where he's saying, don't keep fishing for feeling. The feelings are there, but they're being blocked by defense. So again, you have to move around that triangle of conflict. He would say to us, don't beat a dead horse, right? If you've inquired, 2 or 3 times about the feeling and they keep going to defense, then you have to do defense work. If you've asked about feelings 2 or 3 times and they're going over threshold of anxiety, you have to lower the anxiety first. Okay, so I hope that this helps to clarify this. Again, it's not about just fishing for feelings. It's about assessing whether conflicts over feelings are responsible for the symptoms and the presenting problems that the patient comes in to get help with. So I hope this helps, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bye-bye.